Hello everyone, my name is Kurazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We are back in the world after having experimented with some lighting and improving the lighting situation around our house. And I had a free day this past weekend where I had sort of all the time in the world to myself, and I spent it sort of doing some maintenance work around the estate. First, I made more clay bowls for oil lamps. Then I made a lot of bread, and I mean a lot of bread. I weathered a temporal storm, and made out like a bandit because we met 2 double-headed drifters. I harvested our new soybean crops. And of course, I replanted them, I'm not some kind of monster. I put the oil lamps on the rest of the pathway pedestals. I harvested and replanted our main crops. I found out that fruit trees do, in fact, grow back. Then I realized we had no money, and I broke down and started selling bronze tools to the traders. I killed a lot of wolves. I found a meteorite, a very small one. I made some good deals. I took a jog across the desert. I collected seashells. I made some great deals. Then I squandered all our money on fancy things. I hiked home through an alien landscape. I made some fantastic deals. And now that we're home, I chopped down all of our trees that were out here and replanted most of them. I actually removed the larches that were here, and we're going to find a new home for those. And then I started burning up our chopped firewood in our charcoal pit because we were almost out of charcoal. So that is going to finish up here in probably the next 12 hours or so. Today's episode is going to be about one room. Actually, 2 rooms, sort of. We have had this sort of empty dining room area. Well, it isn't a dining room yet, but it will be eventually. But we've been using it for fuel storage, and we've also been using this sort of corner of our kitchen for fuel storage too, and frankly, it's just ugly. I mean, no one wants to be sitting here eating their escargot, because, I mean, let's face it, we're fancy, we'll have escargot every day, right? And you don't want to be sitting there eating your escargot with, you know, a stack of peat 9 feet tall right behind you, toppling over. And same for here. I think this area, we might keep like a small stack of firewood here, but I want to have a somewhat larger repository nearby. It just so happens that we have a room in the house that we never actually built. We never got around to it. And that would be this room out here, or what should be out here. And so today, I want to focus on getting this room in and getting it detailed all in one fell swoop. I want to sort of work it from start to finish, and then when we're done, I want to be done with it. So we're just going to go out here. I am thinking we could do a kind of 3 seasons room. Glass walls, glass roof, and we'll pull some of the elements of the main house into the room's design. I also have an idea of what I want to do on the inside as far as decoration goes, and I think you'll like what the result is going to be, assuming I like it too. With that being said, let's get to work. So first we need a project bin, so I'm just going to put it in our kitchen for now. Just going to clutter this up a little bit more, and right there. And let's fill it with all our stuff. So here is everything I think we're going to need for the build. There might be a few additions, and there is one exception, is that we need some more of these leaded glass panes, but we are short on lead ingots, so we're going to go heat a few of that up now and get those poured. Okay, now I think we have mostly everything we'll need. We might come up with some new materials as we go along, but let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we need to dig a block down and lay some foundation, because this is not going to be as tall as the rest of the house, so having this sort of 1 block tall shale cobblestone lining it isn't going to work. We're going to need to have a shorter sort of foundation to the house here, or flare to the bottom, I should say. And I do want to keep with the shale, but what we'll do is we will have a half block lining it instead of a full block. I also want to shift this a little bit, so we're going to actually cut it here rather than where this pillar is. And I'm also going to bring it in by a block so we don't end up cutting off that window. So we will have it come in here, or maybe even here. Exactly where it comes in is going to depend on how much of this cobblestone we can get rid of, because right below here is where our cellars are, so we can't get too creative with it. Next, we fill in the foundation with cobblestone. And I realized that I didn't need to actually remove this cobblestone here. Whoops. Next, we move you. Get out of here. And next we need to start with some of our blocks. And we're going to start with the plaster, and I think some of the shale. So the plaster is going to go like this along the bottom. And then we need to remove this row of the shell cobblestone foundation flare. And we will run this plaster up to the wall. And now we can't get in. We'll leave those there for now. Next up are the doors. These are double doors, and in Vintage Story, unlike in the other block game, they are kind of smart. Eat your heart out, other block game. Do note that you want to start with the door on the right, because if you don't, this happens. And we hate that. Next, we raise this up by, let's try 4 blocks. Or I should say 2 4 blocks. And then we're going to bring this up 5 blocks. And we'll do the same over here. We'll have to remove this trim. Next, we realize that we don't want to use the leaded glass panes, as good as they look, because we're going to chisel down this plaster later, and the glass panes would then stick out a little bit too much. And we don't want that. On top of that, we can't have glass panes next to the doors because they center themselves on the middle of the block, and so we'd have this gap between the glass pane and the door. Instead, we're going to be using glass slabs, and we're just going to make a whole bunch of them. In the next version of the game, 1.17, it will be possible to chisel glass slabs, and glass in general. And maybe, when that happens, we'll come back through with an editing pass and do some neat chisel work with the glass here. Next, we realize that we really don't like the glass slab look after all, and we are going to do the glass panes. Shame. In that case, we need to frame our doors a little better. And we're going to rethink how we do the base of this. Next, we take the shell cobblestones that we had pilfered from the edge of the house, and we start putting these here, along with these blocks. Then we move some path around. Next, we do the rough chisel work. Then, we do a little bit of touch-up. Just a bit. Next, we make the windows of wanted in the first place. Windows in. Next, so that we can sort of figure out how to finish out this section here, we start working on the roof. After a snack. And this piece of the roof right here will have to be chiseled in because it is part of this windowsill block right here. So we're going to just do a bit of this, and bam. And now we should be able to do just like that. And this is the angle of the roof we'll have. It's going to be the opposite angle of our main roofs. So these are at a 22.5 degree angle off of vertical. These are 22.5 off of horizontal. And so we're just going to then fill these out like this by one block each. And on the inside. And the same goes for this one chisel-wise. We want to make sure that we have roof slabs across the windows here, as well as on the overhang. And then in the center we'll have a sort of extra brace of this slate roofing. And then it'll also go across this way, like this. And once again, we have to contend with the chiseled sill here. And then we finish up the rest of the slate parts of the roof. Then, we set the mood. And then, I think it would be cool if we had these glass blocks popped out from the shingles by half a block. And then we'll just start filling in the rest of these walls. Next, we do our window frames and the door frames. Next, we do the exterior trim. using the same granite dry stone as we have been using for the rest of the house. And next, we're going to copy our corner braces out of the brick here on these panels. But we are going to recycle, reduce, reuse, recycle, and all that stuff to our existing blocks. And we will have to re-chisel them to get the textures to line up, but that's not a problem. And I am keeping this corner brace here because it's sort of like this is supposed to be an addition to the house, so this brick bracing would sort of still be worked into the plaster here. It would just have been covered up by this new plaster. Next, we have to do something about this sort of base of the wall here. Now you have to be careful because these cobblestone stairs are interior to the basement. However, I know for a fact that I will drop it into the basement, but I know for a fact that we can safely chisel this last, was it quarter of a block away, and replace it with plaster, and it will not affect the interior of the basement. Same for the end of this log. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And like that, it's as if it was always plaster the whole way down. Now, we need to do something about these stairs, because we need to actually be able to get up and down here without jumping. So we're going to just pull some of these out of here. And I think what we'll do is we will yank you out of here. We'll just drop you guys there. Does that make sense? I think it does. I think it does. Still gives us room to work here. And we will, of course, chisel those. So now we have stairs up into the house. And I'm not sure we're going to do a railing, because this is a very short staircase, and we live in an era without OSHA and without building codes, so I don't think we really need to worry about a railing. Besides, I want to keep this space here for making sure we can pile up our wood to our heart's content. Now this block right here, I think these guys are interior to the basement. Let's see. Oh yeah. So, what we can do is, I think we're just going to chisel these and make their tops granite instead of shale. I think I have enough granite cobblestone. Yeah, here we go. Let's do it. There we go. Nice and uniform. Oh, we need some trim on this door too, don't we? Well, let's fix that. And blam! It's done. Let's go get some peat, and we're going to bring it out here. That is much better than storing it in our dining room. You'll go too eventually. Just you wait your turn. And since we said we would, get it, wood, we will stack some firewood here too. There we go. Now, about this room's decoration, and what this is going to be for. I think we should start by finishing out the floor first. And I got out the kimberlite, what little of it we have, because I thought it might be cool to have sort of a kimberlite inlay in this floor here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What if we did like 5 kimberlite across here, 2 blocks thick? Now this may impact the ceiling in here, which is fine, honestly. Didn't expect to fall through the floor, though. There we go. And then let's just give these a nice shine. And in they go. You know what? We have two more. How about there? I think it works. I could almost go for one more here and over here and have sort of like a border of cobblestone, but that would require another trip to the kimberlite mine, and I am not doing that today. Now, as for what we're going to put in here, as far as decorations go, trees. We are going to put small potted trees in here, and this will become our bonsai room. I think it'll be fun to have a bunch of different pots and planters, each with their own little trees in them. And we could even have like a little work table maybe over here that has one of our trees on it. That is our active project that we're, actively clipping. And I think that would just be a lot of fun to have in here. And of course, we are going to need some fancy shelves to hold these trees. So, let's get to it. Okay, I have finished cleaning up the kitchen as it was quite messy in here. And let's take a look at our bonsai room. I like it. Now there are a few things we're going to want in here. We're going to want a tool rack so we can have our copper grafter. We're going to need a knife, a very sharp knife, for cutting our trees and making sure that they are in the shape we want. So we need a nice knife. And probably some shears for doing some of the more delicate trim work. And there we go. A few more details. I'm thinking like a watering can. Oh, how about right there? There we go. And that is our bonsai room done. Now what we need to do is we need to punch out that chimney for the bread ovens. Well, I will do that between episodes, I think. And here is our 3 Seasons bonsai room from outside. And, oh, I like being able to see the trees from outside, too. It's a nice sort of splash of color through the window there. Muted though it is. Now, this section of wall up here could really use something, and I'm thinking maybe just some kind of design above the door. Maybe a lantern, but I don't want to sort of oversaturate with a light here. Especially because we need it sort of farther from the house to keep the rifts at bay. But I'll think of something to put in here. I might even sort of blow a hole in here and put a new window in for extra light. We'll see. I'll have to think about that. And while we are on the topic of trees, here is our redwood sapling. You'll notice it says will mature in about 23 days. So this originally said it was going to mature in like 76 days. And I didn't realize that the default wilderness survival settings set the tree growth time to double. So it takes twice as long as, quote, normal for trees to grow. And because I didn't want to have to wait like a year for this tree to grow, because we only have about 7 to 8 months of growth time per year, I did change that setting back to ×1. So, just a word of warning, if you are growing redwood trees, you are going to have to either wait a long time, or just break down and modify the world config. I do wish they didn't take quite so long. Well everyone, that is about all the time we have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed our little adventure in building this bonsai room, and in decorating it from start to finish. We are rapidly approaching episode 50, and I kind of want to do something special, and something we haven't done before, and something I have seen other YouTubers do for their worlds in other block games. I'm talking about a world tour. I'll have to think about what that entails, but I'm sure I will come up with something and make it interesting for you. Anyway, as always, my name has been Kurzar. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.